Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Find a living in fisheries. The UAS Fisheries Technology Program offers online study from anywhere in Alaska, plus labs and workshops in many Alaska towns.
Is most likely a chum.
Find your living without leaving where you are. Fisheries Technology from UAS.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. On big storm again rolling into the southeast coast with gusts to 90 miles per hour out there at Cape Decision, otherwise Cape Spencer, gusts 71 miles an hour. With Klawock Airport, they're seeing gusts pretty high too, almost to 60 miles an hour. Otherwise, Sitka, nearly 50 miles an hour. And then on down the list there, Wrangell, 37, 35 to 40 mile an hour wind gusts there. So another big wind producer of a storm rolling into the Panhandle today. On yesterday's satellite, you had, again, one system exiting there, a much weaker one, big one winding up down here to the southwest, much like the one that came in there several days before that. And up over the interior, clouds, eastern Copper River Basin, clouds back out here to the west. Not a bad day in over south central Alaska. A lot of cold air, snow showers over the, well, from St. Lawrence Island all the way down to the Pribilofs and blowing on down across the eastern Aleutians. Next trough out there to the west, mostly a cold core system that's weakening as it pulled eastward. And a few missing satellites today, but you can see that system has pulled to this position here. Mostly snow showers in that, a little mixed condition down over the eastern Aleutians, but back up now east of the Pribilofs, so not a bad day there. Next band of clouds, not really the front, just a lot of high level moisture sliding eastward here and toward the central Aleutians. But the main storm back out to the west with that cloud mass out there, already getting high-end gales there into the western Aleutians with rain and snow. And then this low pressure center tracked up off the southeast coast right up to this position today. And again, all the wind and rain mostly there, still mixed over towards Stewart, and but rain extending all the way up to Skagway. And we'll see again, a couple of leftovers from yesterday, but on the chart this afternoon, 997 millibars right in that position there. Again, much more of a wind producer than precipitation, but Sitka picked up about 2/3 of an inch today. Petersburg, by comparison, had 1.86 inches, again falling in a 12-hour period occurring today. And then snow up over Canada, and a widespread area of light snow continuing actually from Palmer there in the Talkeetna Mountains, Matanuska Valley, northward, in across much of the Tanana Valley. Snow Nenana and at Fairbanks, clearing out over at Tanana, but snow extending up across the Yukon Flats, Eagle, Northway, and flurries up on the eastern Arctic coast, clearing out here in the west, much colder temperatures, and winds on the increase here for the western Alaska Range, especially through the passes down across Shelikof Strait, Kodiak Island, the Barrens into Kamishak Bay, increasing winds there, drying out along the North Gulf Coast. Snow showers with this system back out over the Bering Sea, a much weaker system than this one in the Gulf of Alaska. High pressure, and then the next front again bringing 50 mile an hour wind gusts or higher to the Shimia with rain and snow this afternoon. We'll see for tonight that pushes eastward. Gales and storms, I think, in the forecast here with that tonight as it gradually pushes eastward. Otherwise, high pressure basically in control of the central and eastern Bering Sea here, about 1,030 millibars there right off the southwest coast. Clear and cold, light winds over the western interior right up to the Kobuk-Selawik Valley areas. Most of the Seward Peninsula, still due to the open water there over the Chukchi Sea, looking at some areas of light snow, patchy fog there from Shishmaref all the way up, catching Point Hope, Cape Lisburne. Otherwise, just mostly cloudy, a few flurries, patchy fog there for the North Slope and the Arctic coast. A little more continuous there over toward Kaktovik and Barter Island. Light snow continues here through much of the interior again, mostly from the Alaska Range northward, northeastern Copper River Basin, possibly down into the Wrangels. McCarthy might hang on to some snow there, but drying out along the North Gulf Coast with maybe a little bit of clearing. And big winds for Kamishak Bay, northwest 65 knots, hurricane force tonight. And good storms right across the Barren Islands. Strong winds Kodiak Island could see gusts of 70 miles per hour at the state airport or the bay there, which is right next to the area. And for Panhandle, gradually diminishing precipitation, still gusty on the winds, but definitely becoming more showery. Snow showers for the Alaska Peninsula. And for tomorrow, we still got a pretty good low in the Gulf of Alaska here with all the cold air coming out of the interior. Kind of a self-perpetuating feature there that even though the original low tracks up into Canada, still a lot of flow coming around that. Look for lowering snow levels. So trending towards snow here over the northern panhandle, a mixed condition down to the south and more showers off to the west. Otherwise, pretty gusty winds, Copper River Basin, letting up probably for the eastern Tanana Valley, North Wyandotte, but definitely some good channeled winds here for the mountain passes of the Alaska Range, all the way down into, again, Kamishak Bay, coming down to storm force winds for tomorrow there, as well as the Barren Islands, and lightening up winds for Saturday here for the Alaska Peninsula, Bristol Bay. Kind of a band of remnants of that moisture. Could bring a few snow showers there to Falls Pass, Cold Bay area, but should stay east of the Pribilofs. And high pressure, cold temperatures once again. Day tomorrow, much like today here over the interior, temperatures staying well below zero. And hanging on to the light snow, it's tending to taper off, but it won't end altogether. Now it will be definitely north of the Alaska Range and extending up in areas there, but pretty light. Could still see some blowing snow here over the extreme southeast interior, and maybe a little moisture wrapping in along the North Gulf Coast, possibly. But then for Sunday, system develops, trough here with the cold air coming southeastward, develops a low, not a real strong system, and depending on where it tracks, it looks like a pretty good chance of snow since the cold air should be in over the southern southeast coast. Snowfall levels should be close to sea level, especially the eastern areas. Big increase in the winds here, north 45 knots with much higher gusts from northern the Lynn Canal. So cold air, drying conditions coming into the northern panhandle, snow showers across the Gulf of Alaska, up and across the Barren Islands. Less wind and a drier day, probably mostly sunny there for Kodiak Island. Sunshine, cold, Bristol Bay, right up in all of the interior, quite cold conditions, especially the winds are light and the sky's clear. Hanging on to some clouds with a much drier day here for the eastern Tanana Valley 40-mile country. Just some variable clouds. All the flurries now off into Canada. 1,048 millibar high there right up near Old Crow. And so really cold temperatures, lightening up on the winds here along the Alaska Range, but getting pretty gusty through the channeled areas, Prince William Sound, Copper River Basin, especially the northern panhandle, out to the west, that front approaching the coast here. So got gale force winds into the forecast. Nunivak Island up across St. Lawrence Island for Sunday and Sunday afternoon. Chance of precipitation should stay to the west. Maybe some snow catching Nunivak Island. Rain and wind, the Alaska Peninsula there with warmer air coming northward, maybe mixing out there for the Pribilof Islands ahead of the front, and some more rain and snow showers with a weaker system right over the central Aleutians. Temperatures across the panhandle today, all in the mid-40s, pretty uniform temperatures there. Sitka not on the map, but they were about 44 or so this afternoon. 45 at Klawock, Skagway 38, same thing at Yakutat. Upper 20s, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, Seward to Homer, teens 13, Kenai 19 at Palmer. Again, quarter-mile visibility a couple hours ago with snow and fog there. Talkeetna up to 22-12 over at Gulkana. And up in the interior, temperatures contrasted from east to west here. You can see where the clouds clear out. 4 degrees at Fairbanks falls to minus 35 at Bettles, minus 33 there at Huslia. McGrath 25 below, 4 above at Bethel, minus 2 Anaktuvik. And again, a range there along the Arctic coast, 0 Kaktovik and Barrow, minus 13 at Deadhorse, 9 at Point Lay. Kivalina 12 below, Kotzebue minus 5 with Buckland at 2, Nome minus 6, and you can see the 0 degree isotherm right out to the coastline, but Makoriak up to 19, as was Savunga. 32 both at St. Paul and St. George, otherwise mid-30s for the Aleutians, and upper 20s to mid-30s for the Alaska Peninsula, just 2 degrees at King Salmon. For the lows tonight, into the teens with all that wind there for Kodiak Island, upper teens, and 30s for the southeast coast, falling below 0, some areas over the Copper River Basin, well below 0, 25 to 40, maybe 44 below here over the west central interior, up to the north slope, warmer along the coast, 28 over the Pribilofs, otherwise 30s for the Aleutians. Highs tomorrow, again, 20 to 32 below here over the western and northern interior areas. In the teens, south central Alaska, near 0 for the Copper River Basin, 30s for the Panhandle. And again, that'll even be much colder, especially over the northern areas on Sunday. Mid-30s here for the Alaska Peninsula. And for flying weather, lower conditions here for the Seward Peninsula up along the northwest coast, and improving here over the interior, but hanging on to some IFR over the eastern interior in the Panhandle, and more IFR coming in with that front, which in the afternoon pushes across Adak, but not quite Atka. Pretty good here over the eastern Bering Sea. A lot of VFR in the interior, improving. Still marginal along portions of the Alaska Range. IFR now for the eastern part of the Panhandle and a little bit up here to the north. Passes, Anaktuvik and Atikan, both good VFR tomorrow. Lake Clark, Merrill, rainy, wide open. No clouds. Windy though, starting out marginal, gradually becoming VFR as the day wears on. Same trend for Isabel and Tasta, and for Tanita though, VFR, Portage, VFR, Chilkoot and White, IFR. Freezing levels, really not much to see here, just nudging northward of the Pribilofs late tonight. Otherwise, south of Kodiak Island as that cold air rides in on those strong northwest winds, and then up to about Yakutat, 2,000 feet down over the Queen Charlotte Islands, and barely reaching the western Aleutians. Icing with that incoming front, 5,000 feet and up of mostly the rime variety here, spreading eastward to Adak tomorrow. Otherwise, icing free over a good portion of the interior. Maybe some patchy stuff here as that area light snow tapers off and moves off. A little bit better chance here of mixed icing above about 5,000 feet for the southeast coast. Winds aloft, jet stream, northwesterlies, 70 to 100 knots. Again, driving cold air southward across Kodiak Island, upper level low in the Gulf of Alaska. That's going to take the modified Arctic air in over the south central Alaska area, turn it into bona fide Arctic air probably Sunday and Sunday night. But the jet now south of the Panhandle, keeping in a showery condition there, high pressure ridge holding out to the west. 9,000 feet, strong northeasterlies, 35 knots across the Alaska Range, 50 to 55 knots here, Kodiak Island from southern Cook Inlet. Dropping back to 30 knots, light winds here along the ridge axis, lighter winds tomorrow for the Panhandle. Another increase, a narrow band here, 55 knot winds ahead of that front as it pushes into the central Aleutian. Same thing, 3,000 feet, 50 to 55 knots, dropping back to 20 to 30 behind the front. High pressure in advance of the system, light variable winds, northerlies coming down to 20 knots here, Bristol Bay, back to the Kuskokwim Mountains, but quite strong across the western Alaska Range, Kamishak Bay, Kodiak Island, and even 45 knots there out of the northeast across the Alaska Range. 10 to 20 for the Panhandle. Turbulence, definitely moderate chop, pretty likely there across all of southern Alaska here. Severe possible below 4,000 or 5,000 feet there for Kodiak Island. Maybe into Kuskokwim Bay. More likely though there tonight, severe turbulence Iliamna Lake across the Barents tonight and expanding to Kodiak Island, but holding over Kodiak tomorrow. with light to isolated moderate turbulence there for the Panhandle, smooth up here to the north. Offshore flow mechanical turbulence here along the southwest coast of Nunivak Island, occasionally moderate for AKwx, and that's spreading in toward Atka. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary O'Connor with the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health here in Anchorage. We'd like to thank Alaska Public Media for allowing us to bring you hangar flying tonight. We are pleased to have Jamie Patterson-Sims back on our show. Jamie is the owner and a flight instructor at a flight training school here in Anchorage. Welcome back, Jamie.
Thank you, Mary.
So last time we talked a little bit about the flight school, which was recently recognized by the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, and we touched a little bit on the fact that you were recognized on their honor roll for flight instructors. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Can you tell us, how long have you been a flight instructor?
I've been a flight instructor since September of 1993. So,
wow,
yes.
That's quite a bit of instruction.
yes, quite a few years.
And what type of instruction do you do? What are your students working on?
Most of my students, I have mostly primary students, private pilot students who need that basic instruction. Most of them want to either go out and fly professionally, but the majority of my students want to get their private pilot's license so they can get their own airplane and go explore Alaska. So
sure.
Yes.
So at the flight school, there are aircraft that are available for rent. Do you also fly in other people's airplanes if they were to come to you and already own an aircraft?
Well, we have so much demand for our own aircraft that it really makes it difficult to fly in other people's aircraft. So if we do have the time, we will flight instruct in their aircraft. Most of that type of flight instructing is flight reviews or little, maybe they need a tune-up or they want to go practice their landings with a flight instructor. So that's when we fly in other people's airplanes.
Okay. And it probably makes sense for training to stick with one airplane and then transition into something else.
Yes. It doesn't help. It's not very helpful to switch back and forth between aircraft. It's good to stick with one airplane during your entire flight training experience and then transition to another aircraft after you're done with your training.
So we talked a little bit about being students ourselves.
Yes.
And I understand that you are also a student.
I am a student. I'm always training. I'm always trying to improve my skills. And right now I am doing some training with another flight instructor to get another rating. And so I've been working on that off and on as I have time and trying to get that accomplished. So it's really, it's good for me to get that perspective from the left seat, from the student seat, and get that training. So people are always, best instructors are always training themselves.
Oh, exactly. And I'm sure it helps you be more empathetic in knowing what that student is going through.
Yes, it's definitely, yes. So
can you tell us what your favorite thing about instructing is, or what your most favorite type of instruction is?
I love teaching primary students. They are just so much fun. Taking them from ground zero all the way to their private pilot's license, it's very gratifying, very satisfying for me as a flight instructor. You know, their first solo cross country. They're a little bit nervous, but you know, and when they come back, their just confidence level has just soared just so greatly. And yeah, teaching landings, all the different maneuvers is just really, it's really gives me a great sense of personal and professional satisfaction.
Oh, and just knowing that you helped somebody achieve that level of confidence and ability.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is.
So you've got a lot of experience in flight instructing. What are some things that prospective students should look for in a flight instructor? What did you look for when you were looking for a flight instructor?
Well, I wish I had had, what I'm looking for in a flight instructor is their level of experience. I think it's crucial to know that they have a wealth of knowledge, of experience that they can draw from, that they can impart on the students, impart that knowledge. And I think it's crucial that when you're a new flight instructor that you have that attitude of wanting to have help, of wanting to be mentored, so that you can become a great, successful flight instructor. So I'm always looking for experience and, yeah, in my own flight instructing.
And for someone that is looking for a primary instructor, the things that they would look for would be a little bit different than if they were looking for advanced instructors.
Correct. Training primary students takes a lot of patience. You know, teaching somebody how to land an airplane hurtling down toward the ground at 60 to 80 miles per hour or knots does take a lot of nerves of steel, and it's really helpful to be patient, be kind, because everybody's learning. Everybody learns at their own pace, their own different pace, and it's really important to be able to impart that in students.
Well, thank you very much, Jamie. I appreciate your advice and I appreciate your time being here on Hangar Flying.
Thank you, Mary.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have Jamie Patterson-Sims back on our show next time, and we're going to talk a little bit more about flight instruction and what you might want to do if you are a rusty pilot. Until then, fly safely.
Sea ice analysis, still quite an open area here from the Bering Strait on up to the in across the Chukchi Sea. Pretty well iced up Central Coast eastward and expanding near Kotzebue Sound. Even the Bering Strait getting ready to pinch off there. Still open water or ice-free water there coming across those islands. And along the southwest coast, gradually expanding with increasing winds coming in on Sunday. First of next week, probably some of this ice will pull off the coast and then be replaced with new ice that forms right behind it. Moving on to marine forecasts, westerly gales here for the south coast, 35 knots, sea still pretty high, diminishing south to southwest as you head north. Light winds for Lynn Canal tomorrow, southerlies 20, Stevens Passage, Clarence Strait up to 25. And then a big increase in those winds actually will probably take place, or will take place, Saturday night and Sunday. Lynn Canal north 45, gusts to 65 or so. Heavy freezing spray in that forecast. Gales developing there for Stevens Passage. Southeast 20 knots. These winds on the directions really kind of up in the air depending on where that next system, if it develops and exactly where it tracks. We'll go south to southeast 20. Small craft advisories out of the east for the north or the central coast here, and actually those extend all the way up to the north, 13 to 15 foot seas. Prince William Sound small craft advisories north 25 knots, stronger gusts out of northern and western bays and especially possibly Passage Canal. But 20-25 knot winds Cook Inlet. Hurricane force wind warning tonight, Kamishak Bay. Tomorrow coming down to 50 knots for the Barren Islands, 40 Shelikof Strait, 50 Kodiak Island on the east side. Then for Sunday, 20-25 knots out of the north, freezing spray Cook Inlet. Coming down to gales now for Kamishak Bay, 40 knots for the Barrens on down the east side of Kodiak Island, 30 knots Shelikof Strait. Small craft advisories from the North Gulf Coast. And Bristol Bay, northwest 25, 40 knots here from Sitkinak, beginning to diminish as you head toward Castle Cape, becoming westerly, coming down to 20 knots for the Alaska Peninsula. And then for Sunday, that front pushes in, still holds together enough to bring some gales in across the Alaska Peninsula. Lighter northeasterlies for Bristol Bay, and those winds really coming down there from Sitkinak to Castle Cape. And for the Fox Islands tomorrow, southwest 25. And then as that front pushes eastward, so go the storm force winds into the central Aleutians, 50 to 55 knots, small crafts behind the front. And then that front weakens, as you can see, instead of 50 to 55 storms, you've got 35 to 40 knot gales there, especially across Unalaska Island. That'll hit Nikolsky area there earlier, but drop off behind the front 20 to 30 knots for the central Aleutians, west 30 all the way out to the west. And for the Pribilofs tomorrow, south 25, 8-foot seas, small craft advisories there. Gales here for St. Matthew Island, southeast 35. Otherwise, east to northeast 20 to 25 here for the southwest coast of St. Lawrence Island. Big increase in the winds again, that front up through this area, 40 knotters out of the southeast for the Pribilofs, north of Nunivak Island, east 40 St. Lawrence Island. Heavy freezing spray, southeast 45, almost a storm there for St. Matthew Island. And for the Arctic coast, central coast, pretty light, 5 knots, pick up to 10, and then 20 knots over toward Demarcation Point. Otherwise, kind of a light variable wind condition here for the entire west side. And then for Sunday, northwest 20, south 20 there for the Cape Lisburne, Point Hope area. Otherwise, southerlies at about 15 for the western central coast. Southwest turn west 10 to 15 on the east side. Looking at tonight's forecast again, high wind warnings coming down, winds coming down, low weakens, pulls up to the northwest, rain tapers off. You can see enough of a gradient here, the winds don't end completely, but a big decrease here over the northern areas. Low pressure hanging in the Gulf of Alaska. It's going to continue to drive cold air southward. Again, the hurricane force wind warnings, Kamishak Bay, colder air, and got strong winds, Kodiak Island. Winds on the increase here through the Alaska Range passes south central Alaska. Snow hangs on, especially from the Alaska Range northward. Light snow, cold, high pressure out here to the west. A few snow showers for the Alaska Peninsula. Then for tomorrow, still cloudy skies, but lighter in the snowfall and more spotty, starting to break up a little bit there. Still could see some blowing snow early on, possibly from Northway in across the Wrangell Mountains. Snowfall levels lowering, so precipitation will trend toward snow down to lower elevations. And the strong winds, Kodiak Island, but drying out. A few snow showers for the Alaska Peninsula. Incoming front, as I mentioned, bringing milder temperatures and those southerly winds, which will push into the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula on Sunday. Have a great weekend.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.